I am Devil Driven, and welcome to Team Leviathan Gaming's Starter Deck Budget Guide for Nilfgaard. Before we jump into the video, the newest addition to the Starter Deck Budget Series and Crafting Guide was written and created by Nimrafel, Hippopotamus, Wasubi, Art Sharp, and the Keyer. All information can be found in greater detail at teamleviathangaming.com/crafting. So this is the starter deck that we went with for Nilfgaard. We are using Amir's ability. He's got a lot of replayability with some of the cards in the list, such as Vrygheff, Vermeed, even some of these like Darlin Soldiers, and even Sweer's possibility, or Assire. There's just a lot of cards you could just replay and get extra value out of them. Really great leader. You're going to need 1,160 scraps to get this up and going. Let's go through the cards that we added. So the first card that we added is Portal. Portal's an amazing card. It's going to pull out 2 4-provision cards at the same time. And also too, when you play this, if you play this on, say, I don't know if you're going to open with this, that seems a little extreme, but if you do, you're going to also pull out Roach with it, because Roach comes out whenever you play a gold card. Portal's just really nice to put pressure on your opponent, because you're putting 2 engines on the board at the same time, and it's really hard for them to deal with. You're going to play Portal, and it's only going to pull your Nausicaa Sergeants. It's going to pull both of these at the same time, and every time you play a card that has a deploy ability, these Nausicaa Sergeants are going to boost. So your Alba Cavalry, your Nilfgaardian Knights, your Imperial Brigades, your Darlin Soldiers, your Slave Infantry, all these cards have deploys. So if they don't remove these, they're just going to constantly grow, because pretty much everything in your list has deploy. Really great card for Nilfgaard to put a lot of pressure on your opponent, especially in round 3, where an engine that goes unchecked can just win you the game. So the next card we added is Roach. She's a really great card. She's 3 strength, 10 provisions. Whenever you play a gold card, summon this unit from your deck on a random row. Now you're looking at it like it's 3 strength, 10 provisions. Why would I play this card? It just adds tempo when you're playing her. She comes out on the board and adds to the gold card that you already played. If you play this with Portal, you're getting the 2 4-strength engines, which is 8. And then you're also playing this, so it's an 11-point play. She's just, like I said, is a nice tempo play, especially if you're on like blue coin and you want to try to win that round. On red coin, she's really, really impressive, because she's, once again, just putting more pressure on your opponent. She also coincides with another card that we added to the list. So the card that really works out well with Roach is Assire Anahid. Fun fact, her cat's name is Merlin. Assire is 6 strength, 8 provisions. If you play her on melee, she can shuffle a card in your opponent's deck. So sometimes if you're playing against, say, like monsters, or if you're playing against something like Francesca, they can replay a card that's in their graveyard, like Novigrad Justice or Lacerate. Oh, they can't play Lacerate anymore. Call of the Forest, things like that. You could put them back in your deck, and then that leader can't use them. Or in Monster's case, if they have Osril, you could put like a 12-strength Old Spear Tip back in their deck, and they're going to lose value on that Osril. Most of the time, you're going to use it deploy ranged, shuffle a card from your graveyard into your deck. You could shuffle Roach back into your deck, and then she will replay her for a 9-point play, playing over her provisions. A really nice round 3 play where you can, tempo out for 9 points and put 2 bodies on the board. Pretty great. Next card that we added is Vrygheff. Vrygheff is 3 strength, 9 provisions, deployed. Trigger the deploy abilities of adjacent bronze soldiers. So what you're going to want to do is pair this up with your Nausicaa Darlin soldiers, and you're also going to want to set it up with your slave infantry. If you play this in between the Darlin soldiers, it's going to spawn 2 more 3/3s. What you always want to try to do is set your slave infantry and Darlin soldiers next to each other, so that way you can put Vrygheff right in between them and proc both abilities. Vrygheff is going to proc the one to the left first, so if you want to flip something over really easy with slave infantry, have that one on the left side, and then the Darlin soldier will just spawn right next to the other one on the right side. So if you have the slave infantry on your left, you can proc that ability, maybe flip over like something that's 1 strength, and then it's going to spawn that soldier. He can really, you know, save your board from like poisons, bleeding, especially with the slave infantry flip that you can pull off. Vrygheff is setting up your Vermeed, which we'll go over next. He's a really great card, especially in this list where you can possibly too flip him with Emir's ability and do it again, so you can spawn another slave infantry and Darlin soldier, or 2 more Darlin soldiers, empowering your Vermeed even more. It all depends on how you want to set it up, but Vrygheff and Vermeed are going to be absolutely massive with Emir's ability. Next card that we added was Vermeed. Another fun fact about Vermeed, he was actually a Gwent leader back in beta for a couple days due to a bug. Some of the old school beta players will remember that are returning. But Vermeed, he's 4 strength, 7 provisions, deploy, boost an allied soldier and all of its copies by 2. So this is going to pair up really nice with your Vrygheff, spawning more copies of your slave infantry or Darlin soldiers. Because the more soldiers you put on the board, the more copies you're going to spawn, and then that's going to empower your Vermeed. What you can do is, if you have, say, 4 slave infantries, you can play him on the board. He's going to play for 12. Then you replay him again with Emir, and he plays for another 8 and 2 because Emir boosts him. It's a huge power play. If you have last say, meaning you're playing the last card of the game, this is going to be an absolutely massive swing if your opponent couldn't remove your copies of your soldiers that you want to boost with Vermeed. Really great card. Excellent finisher for Nilfgaard, especially in the soldier archetype. So the last cards we added for the soldier Emir deck is the Darlin soldiers, as we spoke about before. So you play these, they're 3 strength, 6 provisions, but when you play the 3 strength unit, it spawns another 3 strength unit automatically. This is going to help set up your Vrygheff to possibly, you know, put him in between the 2 and he spawns 2 more. Or, you know, it's just going to help you enable your Vermeed to have more copies. The more soldiers you have of a single copy, the more your Vermeed's going to, you know, get value. They're just really, really great cards for the soldier archetype. In the new expansion, soldiers seem to be getting expanded even more, so crafting soldiers, you're not going to feel bad about it because it seems like that's going to be a viable archetype for the foreseeable future. That's the budgeted list for Nilfgaard. I'll show you the cards for Thronebreaker, but they're not really viable for this archetype. So you can actually look at all the Thronebreaker cards by going into card sets and then clicking on the Thronebreaker icon. All these cards here you get free with Thronebreaker when you purchase it. The cards that go into Nilfgaard are mostly designed for a mill archetype. Currently mill is not a viable archetype, but these are the 2 cards you get with the Thronebreaker set. First one is Isabel of Hadge. She's order ranged. Look at the top card from both decks, keep one and give the other to your opponent. So you play her on range, you have to wait a turn for this to proc, but after 1 turn you can hit the button and you will pull both you and your opponent will draw a card, but she gets to choose which one she keeps. So she might keep another mill card, she might take something that's really good of yours and give you a junk card from her deck that you can't even do anything with. It's a real pain in the ass to play against this card, but it's only 5 strength, so if you remove it, it's dead in the water because you have to wait a turn for the ability to proc. As I mentioned, this is a mill card, not really viable, but I still recommend if you haven't played Thronebreaker to definitely check it out. She's actually a really crazy card in the game because in the game they have different abilities. The other one that you get with Thronebreaker is Trehorn van Vrygheff. I butcher these names, I'm so sorry. But Trehorn, he's 4 strength, 8 provisions. Deploy, look at the top 3 cards in your opponent's deck and move 1 to their graveyard. So you look at the top 3 cards, it might be something their whole deck's built around, like say Shoop, and you just throw it in the graveyard and they can't play it anymore. Once again, this is designed for mill, not really a viable archetype. Another card that's extremely frustrating to play against. This one's Deploy, so it does it automatically. You look at 3 cards, you pick which one of your opponents you want to chuck in the graveyard, and sometimes they can't do anything with that card after you put it in the graveyard, like say Shoop. Really frustrating card. But it's mostly designed for mill. But that's the budgeted list for Nilfgaard. Check out Team Leviathan Gaming for updated meta snapshots and deck guides, and check this channel every day for new content. Thank you guys for watching, and good luck.